No pump and almost no abs. Coach Greg, in today's video, should Angelo Schladler bulk, cut, or main gain? And also, is this guy, in fact, natural? And so I'm checking out this guy's physique and I'm thinking, oh my goodness, what are they putting in the water? Is he one of the trend twins? Is he, in fact, a trend triplet? The guy just recently turned 18 and he has an incredible physique, better than 99% of the population. And that includes grown adults who are, in fact, taking steroids. And so my first impression, there's no way that this guy is natural. I'm looking at his physique and I'm thinking, at that age, to look that good with that amount of definition, very, very unlikely that this could be done natural. But you cannot tell just by looking at someone whether or not they're natural. I mean, there are no obvious signs. We don't see gynecomastia. We don't see horrible acne. And so aside from the fact that the guy has a ton of muscle, he doesn't have any outward signs of being unnatural. And so I said, let's start by giving him the benefit of the doubt. And so I straight up asked him, I want to stay natural for right now because I have seen so much natural growth, literally just from eating enough food. Before I bulked, which was a year into my fitness journey, I was definitely undereating because I wanted to be lean for social media. I was eating 2,500 calories a day and at my peak bulk, eating 4,000. I don't want to cook up my hormones when I clearly have extremely good muscle building genetics. I want to push my natural gains farther before I consider gear. And so he states at his leanest, he was at about 9% body fat and his peak bulk about 15% body fat. And as you know, I'm going to have to go look at his old photos in order to see if the transformation makes sense or not before I can tell you if he's natural. But before we get into that, let's decide what should he do right now. And so clearly, the guy looks amazing. He's 18 years old, he's 5'11", about 200 pounds. And as of right now, he states he's around 14 or 15% body fat. I examined his photos and I'm going to have to say I think he's even a little bit leaner. I don't think that this is 15% body fat. I looked through his photos, saw mostly upper body pictures, and I thought, I got the guy's secret. Probably carrying a ton of body fat in his legs. Perhaps he just has extremely gifted fat distribution. And so he sent me a photo, and what do you all think? Do those look like legs that are carrying a lot of body fat, or do they look shredded? Personally, I think he's closer to 12% body fat. And so to me, this is extremely aesthetic. Guy looks absolutely incredible. Perhaps a little too incredible, but we'll talk about that a little bit later. Slow cut starts now. And so before deciding what he needs to do, I felt I should ask him, are you planning to do a show? What exactly are your goals? I am 100% natural though. Haven't touched anything. I know you think this is code for gear. I've been bulking for the last 9 months and have been around 200 for the past 4. So I probably got a tiny bit leaner than I was in January. And remember, the guy has a great mindset. It's the biggest compliment when people don't think you're natural when you are. I get accused every day. I don't mind it. And you're thinking he has a better physique than you'll have in your entire life, and he states he's natural? Oh, come on, you can't be natural, can you? Level with us! Tell us what you're taking! I will probably want to step on stage at some point. Right now, I'm trying to build a great physique to gain a large following on social media so I can make this my living. And so there you have it. He's planning to compete, to step on stage, of which I'm sure he'll do exceedingly well. But for right now, he's not competing. He wants to get a large following on social media. Hence the pressure. The pressure to be shredded. Does anyone not think that there's tremendous pressure to look extremely shredded, to have muscles for days? And remember, he's 12, perhaps 13% body fat right now, and that's after 6 months of bulking. Or was it? Did he in fact bulk for 6 months? Well, what did he just say? I've been the same weight for the last 4 months. Are you in a bulk if your weight is not going up? By definition, if you're bulking up, you're getting bigger. I mean, what's next? I've been bulking for 6 months. I've lost 20 pounds? Of course not. And so what was he actually doing? What he was doing is he went from 9% body fat, which is single-digit body fat. Last I checked, 1 digit 9, it's not 2 digits, 10 is double-digit body fat. And so because he was at 9% body fat, made it a little bit harder to put on muscle. And so he decided to go on a lean bulk, of which I 100% would recommend it. Look at his physique. At 9% body fat at his leanest, he's only 17 years of age. Look at the guy. He's 17 years old trying to maintain single-digit body fat. Does that remind you of anyone? Or does it remind you of almost everyone? So many social media influencers, for example, Alex Eubank, Tristan Lee, the list goes on and on. These guys are trying to get shredded. The pressure from social media to have an amazing physique, to have single-digit body fat with a load of muscle, well, it's very strong. But thankfully, he realized, I'm too lean right now. I need to eat more. I need to go on a lean bulk in order to put on more muscle. And through a calorie surplus, he then ate enough food to increase his body fat to a healthy body fat percentage. For him. Remember, it varies from person to person. Sometimes if you have great genetics, perhaps it's 10%. If you don't, perhaps it's 20%. And for the most part, 15% body fat, that is what I recommend. And so he increased his body fat percentage to perhaps 12 or 13%. And then what did he do? He gained. I'm telling you, he gained. No, he didn't, Coach Greg. He bulked for 6 months. He said it. His weight was the same. He was 200 pounds for 4 months straight. And during that time, he states, I may have gotten a tiny bit leaner. And so does that not sound like a guy who's gaining? Well, perhaps maybe he was in a cut. But he wasn't trying to cut. He wasn't purposely thinking, I need to get shredded. He just was gaining. And perhaps at the peak of his bulk, he was 15% body fat. And so how does that not go in line with exactly what I keep preaching? And so what does he want to do now? Now he wants to go on a cut. But why? He's at a perfect body fat percentage right now. He looks amazing, has fantastic abdominals, great size definition, but he wants to go on a cut. Why? Why do you think? He states it himself, I want to have a large social media following. And he knows that if he gets even leaner, that if he gets shredded, even more eyes are going to be on him. Wow, look at that physique. He's so impressive. But do you know how hard it is to maintain that? Just ask Tristan Lee to constantly be fighting against your body and not giving it the nutrients it needs. Peak bulk actually looks better than most people's peak cut. I'd recommend to gain. Already lean enough. And that is what I wrote to him a week ago. And notice since then, we've actually sponsored him. He looks absolutely incredible, and I think he's going to do amazing things in the fitness industry. Greg Doucette, the way to gain muscle is to be in a surplus. It's a lot better to bulk over 6 months, gain hella mass, then cut and do it all over again. Maintaining/gaining is shit. Really? Well, let's dissect what you've been saying. To gain muscle helps to be in a surplus. Do I disagree? Remember, he was at 9% body fat and he went on a bulk. Did I disagree with that? Do I think that that's a bad idea? No, I in fact encourage it. I tell people 9% too lean. Probably go on a lean bulk. Then when you get to a healthy body fat percentage, you can then gain. He's saying no. You need to put on hella mass to eat for 6 months in a bulk. Really, if you go out and eat a ton of food for 6 months straight, the vast majority of people, almost everyone, they're going to get fat. And so he says, then you got to cut and then do it all over again. All right, you just stated that to put on muscle, it's easier when you're in a surplus. And so if you just bulked for 6 months and got fat and now have to cut, do you not think it's going to be more difficult to put on muscle while you're cutting? Think of it, use your logic. If it's easier to put on muscle in a surplus and now you're suddenly cutting in a deficit, it's going to be much harder to put on muscle. In comparison, what do I say? To gain, that's when you eat what your body needs. You're at a healthy body fat percentage. When you're at a healthy body fat percentage, your hormones are at optimal levels. You're primed to put on muscle. And so what do? You eat enough food to maintain that same body fat percentage and slowly over the months and or years put on muscle. And so considering that he was at 200 pounds for 4 straight months and was getting leaner, what he actually should be doing is eating more. He's already looks amazing. He's already shredded. And so by going on a cut right now, it's going to diminish his muscle building potential. And so all this is going to do is slow down his rate of muscle growth. I'm not saying he can't build any muscle, but it's going to be a lot harder than if he were to eat more. Now, would I say he needs to go on a bulk? Does he need to bulk right now? I don't think so. I think if he feels healthy and he's trying to look good for social media, I think he's accomplished it. I don't think he should go to 20% body fat. I'm not saying the guy needs to bulk up to 20 and main gain there. Perhaps at 20%, he won't get as many followers. People won't want to watch him as much. Not saying that's right or wrong, but I'm being realistic. I'm saying to be aesthetic, to have 12% body fat for him probably makes a lot of sense. And yes, I know he's only 18, and perhaps if he ate even more, he'd put on more muscle. And I realize that down the road, he wants to be a bodybuilder. But what's important to him is right now, he wants to make a career out of this. Bulk and cut phases are how you put on significant muscle mass. I'm not saying Greg is wrong because main gaining can work, but you won't get nearly as big. The best thing to do is what every other pro does. Just bulk, then cut. Don't get too fat, OFC. And so, see, this is the problem. People use professional bodybuilders, the most massive bodybuilders in the world, and think that they have to copy what they're doing. Professional bodybuilders have already put on all of that muscle. Is he a professional bodybuilder? Perhaps he will be one day, but that's years down the road. And so the reason professional bodybuilders are bulking and cutting is because they can't put on muscle when they're shredded. When they're at 4 and 5% body fat, like Chris Bumstead at the Mr. Olympia, it's too lean for them to optimally be able to put on muscle. They're also suffering, hungry, they don't have any energy, brain fog. It's a nightmare. And so professional bodybuilders, after the show's over, they go on a bulk so that they can return to baseline, to normal. Perhaps 10, 12% body fat. Sometimes 15, sure. But once they get to that body fat percentage, they don't keep bulking. They main gain. And so the only reason they keep bulking and cutting isn't to keep putting on muscle, it's because they're competing. They have to diet down to get shredded for the stage. Cutting will slow down your progress. And so you can see some of the people writing, they actually understand this. If he's 12 to 13% body fat and goes on a cut, perhaps down to 8, maybe 7% body fat, it's going to be that much more difficult to put on muscle. And I can tell you, bulking and cutting is a slippery slope. Do you ever heard of body dysmorphia? Once you've been 9% body fat and you go to 12 or 13, you might in fact feel fat. You're remembering what you were at 9, you're regaining weight, and you're thinking, oh, I have fat on my stomach. I'm not very lean. No pump and almost no abs.
If you're skinny and you haven't bulked before, please, I am begging you to bulk. I was against bulking at first. I wanted to be lean, super aesthetic.
And so you see, he wanted to be lean and aesthetic. 9% body fat. Do I tell you to be single-digit body fat? Of course not. I'm saying 15%. The guy right now is less than 15% body fat. And so he's saying, guys, you need to bulk up. You need to eat more food, quality, healthy calories. He's not talking about people that just want to put on a lot of muscle. If you're already at 20% body fat and you think that by eating more, you're going to put on more muscle, it's not true. And so what he needs to do at this point is to take on his own advice. He realizes that bulking up is going to put on more muscle and that cutting down, getting to 9% or less, it's going to make it much more difficult. And so why are you cutting? Well, you know why. He's dieting down to get more followers to make a career in fitness. As remember, be careful what you wish for. A career in fitness, if it involves maintaining single-digit body fat year-round, well, it's not easy. You're setting yourself up for a life of never being satisfied. Exhibit A, Alex Eubank. Guy's shredded, looks amazing. Millions of followers, millions of dollars. Is he satisfied? My arms are too small. My shoulders aren't big enough. I don't want to abuse PDs. I just need HRT because I need to be shredded. And so imagine looking like Alex Eubank and not being satisfied. And imagine looking like Angelo and not being satisfied. Do you notice a pattern? No one is satisfied. And so no matter what you do, even if you do in fact get your dream physique, you're never going to be happy. So my message, be happy right now. Happiness comes from within. It's not from the exterior shell. I'm not saying not to try, not saying not to work out, to exercise, to eat healthy, to be the best version of yourself. But what I am saying is you need to be happy right now. And the journey, that is the enjoyment. The fun comes in the effort you put towards being the best version of yourself. And so is Angelo in fact natural? And so looking back at his old photos around the age of 15, standing 5'11", the guy weighed about 155 pounds. And so that shirtless photo with the sunglasses, the curly hair, that's him 10 months before he ever sets foot in the gym. And so he's about 15 years of age, and look at this physique. 15, never touched a weight. And so to me, clearly, it's very evident the guy has amazing genetics. Already at the age of 15 to look this incredible without even working out. For the most part, most people who would start lifting at the age of 10, by the age of 15, they wouldn't even look this good. And so take myself, for example. I literally started training at 10. And by 15, I don't even think I had this much muscle. And so clearly, he has ultra elite genetics, far superior than most people. But remember, as a newbie, there is something known as newbie gains. It is in fact possible. The people with the best genetics in the world can put on over 20 pounds of muscle in under a year. And so considering that this guy has ultra elite genetics, that he just started training, I do believe it's possible that he could make this type of transformation. And so if anything, he possibly got leaner. He possibly put on all this muscle while being in a slight calorie deficit. Or at best, he was main gaining. And after this point, he then went on a lean bulk. He went from 170 pounds to 200 pounds. And so it does make sense that by eating even more calories and being in a surplus, he would be able to get his weight up to 200 pounds. But I don't believe it. If I was a betting man, I'm going to say I don't believe that this guy is 100% natural. Now remember, I'm just saying my opinion. I believe there's a 1% chance that he did this transformation while being natural. Because frankly, even with performance-enhancing drugs, this is far superior than what the average person could expect. And so if he came out and said, hey, I actually didn't do it natural, I would still say, wow. This is unbelievable. Remember, this guy has a great attitude. He says, I get accused of using performance-enhancing drugs every single day. I'm not accusing him, but if somebody asks me, they're showing me a photo, they're saying in 2 years he did this, I'm saying, I don't think so. I believe there's a 1% chance that he's natural. But remember, perhaps he just has blessed genetics for putting on size. I asked him, how much can you lift? What are your best lifts? He said, for max, perhaps 235 to 245. 185 for 10. And I'm thinking he's 5'11", 200 pounds of muscle, looks like the Trend Twins, but with a max of 240. Now remember, the Trend Twins, they're benching double this. In comparison, at only 145 pounds, I could bench press 292 at only 17 years of age. And so despite the fact he's 55 pounds bigger than I was, his bench press is far lower than mine. And so perhaps this is argument into his defense of being natural. If he were actually enhanced, would he only be benching 240 pounds with a physique like this? Are you surprised? You're thinking, oh, Coach Greg sponsors him, so he's just going to lie. He's going to say he's natural no matter what. He's for sure natural. No, I'm saying there's a 1% chance that he's natural. He's possibly natural. I hope he is. He states he is. He says, why would I take them? Look at my genetics. And so he has a 100% valid point. Why would he need to take performance-enhancing drugs? And to that I say, well, does anyone know a guy named Chris Bumstead? Guess when Chris Bumstead started taking performance-enhancing drugs? 18. Chris Bumstead already had amazing physique, but yet he still decided to use them. And so what was the result? 4-time Mr. Olympia champion. 17 million followers on Instagram. And so would it be really that surprising, shocking, if this kid decided to take PDs to be like Chris Bumstead? Of course not. And so please don't judge people for the decisions they make. You aren't him. You don't know what it's like to be in his shoes. You don't know the pressures of social media. Let me know in the comment section. Do you in fact believe this guy's natural? Please go and follow him. Give him a follow on Instagram, YouTube, TikTok. Follow him everywhere. And remember, the young people out there, you don't need to use supplements. But what you can do is head over to my website right now. And for free, a free diet and training program. That's right, it's free, not going to cost you anything. First and last name, email address, voila, you are well on your way to your health and fitness journey. Why wait? Why not start today? Be proactive with your health. Subscribe, click the bell button, like the video if you liked it. Please leave a comment. Don't forget to watch one of those 2 bloops. The cookbooks, training books, coaching plans by me and my team, the Circle Diet Book, and the Harder Than Last Time clothing line. You know you want it. Head over to the website, code Greg, 10% off. And until next time, I am out.